Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is quite literally everywhere, yet totally invisible to most of us, the hidden infrastructure that powers our entire modern lives. I mean, from streaming 4K video on your phone to coordinating massive emergency responses, there is a giant physical network making it all happen behind the scenes. But who actually builds it, and what does it really take to keep us all connected? We're going to break down the staggering scale and the incredible unseen human stories behind our wireless world. Think about it for just a second. How often do you actually stop and look at a cell tower? They blend so perfectly into the background of our highways, our city skylines, even our rural landscapes that they practically vanish. We expect flawless, lightning-fast cell service 24/7, yet we completely take the monumental physical structures making it all possible totally for granted. Okay, let's dive into this. Just think about the sheer, immense physical scale of these telecom towers. We are dealing with hundreds of feet of heavy, precision-engineered steel reaching way up into the sky. Yet, this massive physical footprint exists for one single purpose: to transmit weightless, invisible radio frequency waves. It's such a fascinating contrast, right? The heaviest, most imposing hardware imaginable, built just to carry invisible data. But here's the thing, these metal giants don't build or maintain themselves. There is a deeply human element to the story, and it is steeped in both mystery and staggering scale. As one actual tower technician puts it, every climb is a great one. You see, to us on the ground, it's just a static metal spire, but to the people who scale them, it's a highly dynamic, totally unpredictable environment where every single day presents a brand new challenge, thousands of feet up in the air. Section 1, Anatomy and Installation of Cell Sites. Let's look at the foundational technology and the sheer logistical effort required to actually expand our wireless networks. So, what exactly is a cell site? At its core, it's simply the dedicated physical location where electronic communications equipment and antennas are housed. Without these specific, localized nodes acting as relays, those seamless, invisible handoffs that keep your call perfectly connected while you're driving 70 miles an hour down the highway, those simply wouldn't be possible. Let's move to and see how this builds, because planting one of these is a highly regulated, multi-step beast of a process. It kicks off with complex land leasing agreements and really rigorous environmental checks to protect local habitats. Then you've got the precision manufacturing, using ultra-robust materials like galvanized steel just to survive extreme weather. And finally, the installation phase demands incredibly strict adherence to safety regulations before a single antenna is ever allowed to go live. And they are doing this constantly. Get this, right now, there are well over 500,000 towers and cell nodes scattered across the United States alone. That is over 500,000 individual sites that require constant upkeep, constant upgrades, and relentless maintenance just to keep pace with our absolute insatiable demand for data. Section 2, the technician workforce, unsung heroes. So, who's actually up there maintaining this vast network? Let's shift our focus from the sterile hardware to the very real human heroes of the skies. Listen to how one technician enthusiastically described the job. "I'm enjoying my office on the field, wherever it may take me." It honestly takes a very specific, fearless type of person to do this work. They brave extreme summer heat, freezing sleet, heavy snow, and truly grueling hours. It is an adventurous, element-braving career that is about as far removed from the monotony of a cubicle as you can possibly get. But it's not a free-for-all. It's actually a highly structured career path. You generally start at the apprentice level, putting in at least 250 hours of baseline training. Then climbers progress through technician levels I and II to hone their specialties. By technician 3, they're actively handling complex radio frequency systems. And finally, the foreman sits right at the top, overseeing the crews, coordinating with project engineers, and utilizing advanced rigging skills to lift equipment that can easily weigh over 500 pounds. So for all this rigorous, highly specialized, and frankly dangerous work, the average annual pay for a cell tower technician sits at around $60,522. Now sure, a highly experienced foreman at the top tier can make nearly $80,000, but compensation varies wildly depending on the region and the specific contractor they work for. It's a surprisingly modest average when you consider the extreme daily risks involved. Section 3. Navigating Safety and Hazards. Because, as you might imagine, climbing hundreds of feet into the air is definitely not for the faint of heart, and extreme physical dangers are an everyday reality in this industry. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the biggest hidden dangers up there. Notice the specific safety warnings for operating elevating work platforms near RF antennas. It's not just the obvious fear of falling. working too close to active, high-power radio frequencies carries severe invisible health risks, making this environment uniquely and intensely hazardous. To try and manage all this risk, OSHA has laid out some absolutely essential best practices. If a serious safety issue is spotted, work is supposed to stop immediately. Any severe injuries or fatalities trigger automatic investigations. Plus, contractors aren't just allowed to rely on informal, hey, watch me on-the-job training anymore. They are required to provide specialized hoisting training and utilize formal tier-up apprenticeships so climbers are genuinely prepared for the hazards waiting for them in the sky. Section 4, Economics of the Climb, Market Pressures. But here's where things get really tough. Despite those stringent safety protocols, there are massive economic pressures quietly crushing both the contractors and the climbers who maintain this grid. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark visual breakdown of the wireless market. The big three carriers, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, control a staggering 97% of the market. This creates what economists call a monopsony. Basically, it's a market where there are tons of sellers, the infrastructure contractors, but only a tiny handful of incredibly powerful buyers calling all the shots. And that massive market imbalance, it has real, devastating consequences. An alarming 84% of infrastructure contractors are currently reporting declining gross profits. Because the big three dictate a rigid matrix pricing model, labor compensation remains totally flat, even as the technical complexity of the job skyrockets. Contractors are basically being forced to take underpriced jobs just to survive and stay on bid lists, and over half of them have actually had to reduce their workforce in the last 3 years. Which brings us to the sentiment echoing across this entire workforce. One climber stated it painfully bluntly: "Nobody knows we exist." These absolutely essential workers feel completely invisible to the public. They take on incredible technical complexity and literal life-threatening risks every single day, yet they bear the complete brunt of an unraveling economic model that's designed solely to maximize shareholder value for the giant carriers. But because the major carriers have armies of lawyers and lobbyists, and the climbers historically haven't, these workers are finally starting to organize. Veteran climbers like Tommy Schuch have launched the Climber Protections Group. Their main goals? To unify the tower workforce, create a centralized, anonymous reporting system for hazardous conditions, and finally, hold the telecom industry accountable so safety is never, ever compromised for profit. So the crucial point is this: we aren't just talking about a niche economic issue here. This is a full-blown national security risk. Highly skilled infrastructure workers are exiting the industry in droves, right at the exact moment when federally backed broadband programs like BEAD are massively expanding our infrastructure needs. A thinning workforce directly threatens our ability to maintain emergency connectivity when disaster strikes, right when we need these specialized climbers ready to roll at a moment's notice. Which leaves us with a truly critical question to ponder. What actually happens to our national security, our emergency response systems, and our everyday connectivity if these highly trained, fearless workers collectively decide the climb just isn't worth it anymore? It's a stark, undeniable reminder of just how incredibly fragile our invisible networks truly are. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I seriously hope you never look at a cell tower the same way again.